Hello again, this is Doug, the 2-Minute Gardener. Today we're going to talk about water fountains versus water features. What is the difference and roughly how much do they cost? So a water fountain, like what you see here, is a fairly self-contained unit. Some are completely self-contained. Some do require a box for recirculating the water underneath them. A water feature is something that is custom made on site. It still uses the same concept of a submersible pump, a reservoir, and a rubber liner that recirculates the water to the top part, which then flows downhill, but it's a little different than a water fountain. So first, let's look at some water fountains. So these are different types of water fountains. They are self-contained units that have a pump that is set inside each one of them. It's built in or it's inserted in the reservoir underneath. But in general, they are self-contained units. You just buy the water fountain, make sure you run a grounded electrical unit to it, usually buried or hidden behind some kind of plants, and then fill it up with water. Now sometimes they might be kind of shallow like this dolphin one, and so you're going to have to add water every week or two depending on where you live and what time of year it is. But they are really nice ways to bring water to your life, and even hummingbirds and other birds will use them as bird baths if they're shallow enough, like this little hummer here. So there's a big range of water fountains. And by the way, there's links in the comment section on all different kinds of water fountains that are available on Amazon. Most of these water fountains you see in this video, these smaller ones, are going to cost about $100 to $300. Now, this one, like this blue one, is you need to buy more than just the fountain. You have to actually buy the whole kit. So the kit, and we're going to walk you through all the steps of how a kit is put in place. The kit itself is going to also cost about $200 for the box, the pump, the gravel, the tubing, all that other stuff. So here are the steps on how this is put together if you're getting one of these type of fountains that needs to be set on a reservoir. So it's actually a two-part fountain. Almost a water feature, but not quite. We'll talk about the differences in just a second. So first up, it's important that you make sure you run in the appropriate electrical to the area where the water fountain is going to be at. You want to make sure it's a GFI outlet, something that is grounded against water getting into the outlet so it doesn't blow a fuse in your house. So make sure it's a GFI outlet that you've set up for your water fountain. Then you need to dig a reservoir bigger than the box it's going to go in. All of these water fountains require some kind of a reservoir that pumps the water back up through it, because certain water fountains don't have actual built-in reservoirs like the one you're seeing installed here. Once you've done that, they've actually installed a couple of cinder blocks, because this particular water fountain weighs 300 pounds. So if you have a really heavy fountain, you need to do something to support it on top of that grate. Once you've put that kind of support in, it's time to put in the pump. So these are water submersible pumps, and there's different ratings, anywhere from 500 to 1,000 gallons per hour to really pump the water up and through it. The higher the rating, the more water flow you'll get up through it. Once you've installed that pump in the bottom, then it's time to put the support grate in place. And again, if it's a very heavy fountain, like what you're going to see these guys put in place, you need to support this grate with some cinder blocks so that it doesn't just crack right through the grate. All right, the guys have put in the grate, and now it's time to muscle this son of a gun into place. And carefully insert that little support tube. That's what pumps the water up through it. So they're feeding the tube down through the grate and then connecting it to this submersible pump and then stabilizing it in place. And this is a little tedious, and again, if it's a really heavy one like this one is, and boy, it was, my back hurt just watching these guys do this. They got it back up into place, and now is connected to the pump and stabilized, and also make sure to adjust it so it's facing exactly the right direction. Once it's done, then it's time to reinstall all of the mesh on top, because we're going to cover this all with rocks once they are certain that it actually is functioning and working well, as you're going to see here. So let's hear what this one sounds like. So you can see that this one is a really nice one as far as the kind of trickling water feature. Very peaceful. And notice how the grate was covered by some nice Mexican beach pebbles, did a multitude of colors there. And we added some plants that are going to slowly fill in that area. So it's just going to be plants and rocks at the bottom. So now let's talk about water features. Now, a water feature is something that is a larger, more custom-made attraction to your backyard to introduce water. Bigger, you still use a pond lighter that's going to direct the water carefully from the top down to the reservoir and then allow you to pump it back up to the very top area. And they can be small like that one, or they can be large like this one, which actually empties into a koi pond and then has a very large recirculating pump that pumps it back up to the top of the water fountain. But this is what a medium-sized water feature sounds like. See, isn't that a relaxing sound to have in your backyard? And so the advantage of a water feature is that you can enable it to have a much noisier background. You know, if you have a nice fall from the water dropping down into the pool area, the pond area, you're going to get a really nice sound to all of that. The disadvantage is that you have potentially more water loss. So it's important when you do a water feature that you put some kind of autofill valve in it. And if you go to a local water store, pond store, they can show you what an autofill valve looks like, so you can keep the water level at a constant amount. The other disadvantage is, of course, the expense. These water features, like the one that you saw and listened to, that's probably about a $5,000 water feature. So water features are going to generally cost anywhere from $3,000 to maybe $10,000, maybe more. Sometimes you get really big, expensive ones like what you see here. And so they're much more dramatic and much more expensive. Again, the price difference between the two, a water fountain is going to cost anywhere from $300 to $700, depending on how much of a kit you have to buy. A water feature is going to be closer to $3,000 to $10,000, and those are the two differences of a water fountain versus a water feature. Well, that's all the time we have for today. This is Doug, the 2-Minute Gardener, saying if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to get more of my garden videos. Until next time, this is Doug, the 2-Minute Gardener, saying thanks for watching.